All right, so this is a video that I did not want to make. I did not want to comment on, and I didn't want anything to do with this case or this video. Everybody's talking about it, and they can all talk about it. That's fine. I was trying to avoid it, but now I have something to say. So we are going to talk about the infamous Oscar slap at, I don't know, with Will Smith and Chris Rock. And the question I want to ask for this video, for the purposes of this video, is what do you think would happen to Will Smith if he was a police officer? Okay, so I don't think I need to rehash this situation much further. Everyone in the world, that even people without internet, have probably seen this video already. This is Will Smith walking up on stage, slapping Chris Rock, and apparently he's doing it to defend his wife's honor, because Chris Rock made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, and it wasn't a joke about her sleeping with a bunch of other dudes, or a joke about Will Smith being a special word for someone who lets his wife sleep with other dudes. No, it wasn't a joke about that at all. It's a joke about her hair, and apparently she has a some kind of health problem that caused her hair to fall out, and I understand that it's not something that you should really joke about. But the problem is Will Smith got really angry, walked up on stage, smacked Chris Rock. That's the allegation. There's a lot of talk about whether or not this actually happened or if it was some kind of setup. I don't really care. The thing that I care about is the reaction to this, because I've seen a lot of people that are out there defending Will Smith's actions in this case, and I find it kind of funny. And I want to add, the reason I'm asking what would happen to Will Smith if he was a police officer is because if a police officer were to do this, people would be calling for him to be executed in the streets. I hear this stuff all the time. There's a reason that you can't be charged with disorderly conduct, at least in the United States, for telling a police officer to go F himself. There's freedom of speech. We basically can't be the victim of disorderly conduct, which is, causing annoyance or alarm to another individual of regular sensibilities, because police officers are deemed to be not people of regular sensibilities. We are expected to put up with this stuff, basically without end. And with this particular case, it kind of makes me laugh, because the obvious rebuttal will be, if I say, look, Will Smith is an idiot, he shouldn't have gone up on stage and slapped Chris Rock, if it was real, which we're going to work under that assumption right now. Then people will say, well, what if it was your wife? Well, my response to that is, people say stuff like that about my wife all the time. It's very common. I'll arrest somebody, or I will be trying to arrest somebody, or I'll have somebody detained, or I'll just be doing something, interacting with an individual, and that individual doesn't like the way I'm orchestrating this interaction, and they'll start saying things about my wife. I'm not going to repeat them, but you all know what those things are. When you're trying to get a man upset, and you're trying to get him to that next level, where you're trying to get him so angry that his anger bubbles over, and he uses force against you, you know what you say in those situations. And I've been in that situation many, many, many times, where I just have to kind of stand. And honestly, it's not even something that gets me worked up. It just shows that you're such an idiot. You have no case. You have nothing to say about yourself. So all you can do is try to attack me and get me amped up. So it doesn't really affect me whatsoever, but you get the point. Now imagine if there was a case where this happened between a police officer and a citizen. If I was interacting with a citizen, he's sitting there saying all this stuff about my wife, I told him to stop, and then he realized he was getting on my skin, so he brought it up to another level. I walked over and I just gave him a slap. People would be calling for my job. They'd be constructing a gallows in the town hall. The mayor would be having a press conference about me. The world would have gone insane. It would probably go just as viral as this moment here did. But why? The reason why is because we're always told, well, we hold our police officers to a higher standard. Our police officers are not supposed to be human. They're not supposed to break like this. Well, the question I want to ask is, are we not supposed to hold Will Smith to a higher standard as well? Why would anybody defend his actions? We are supposed to be holding him to a higher standard as well. Or is this the example that we're trying to show people? You know, people who watch him and emulate him, are we supposed to say, hey, this is okay? Is this now acceptable? It's not. And the other part of that is, you know, we do hold police officers to a higher standard. I totally agree with that concept. I mean, I do my best to live that idea. I think of myself as someone who acts in public. I try to carry myself in a way that I hold myself to a higher standard. Let's just put it that way. I'm not going to react to people the way a lot of people react. I'll just leave it at that. But at the same time, I still am human. And there's going to be times where I might make a mistake or my emotions might get the better of me. And when we have those situations, we need to realize that police officers are human, just like Will Smith. And if a police officer, I mean, there's a story that I've probably told on this channel before, you know, where you're in a foot chase with somebody, you really want to catch that person. You really want to make sure that that person gets punished. And you know in your heart of hearts that you can catch them, you can arrest them, and you can charge them, and nothing is going to happen to them. And that's very frustrating for police officers. One of the stories that I like to tell about this is, this was years ago. There was a young kid, I think he was like 15 years old at the time. Little white kid, for those of you who are keeping stats. He was well known for stealing cars. He was a little guy. He was a little skinny brat. And we always knew what cars he stole because the seats would be pushed all the way forward in them. So we would always know Jesse stole this car. Well, I arrested Jesse 3 times in 2 weeks in stolen cars. I think I personally arrested him 2 of the 3 times. I was present during 1 of the 3 times. So this is a juvenile who was stealing cars, and in a 2-week period, he had stolen 3. Every time we arrested him, he went to like the kiddie play area, and then they released him back to his parents. He was such a frequent flyer that there were times where we would take him to the kiddie area where he'd get a juice box and get to play Xbox and eat his Oreos. And he would actually climb out a window, and they would call him in as a missing person. He would steal a car over where the juvenile center is and drive it back over by his house, and we'd find a stolen car not too far from his house. That's how prolific of a criminal this kid was. So I was working uniform patrol. Some guys in an unmarked car were watching a certain area, and they got on the radio. They said, hey, if you come up this street, there's this white, I don't know what it was, Dodge Caravan, parked on the east side of the street. There's somebody in it right now, peeling the column, getting ready to steal this car. I was the closest car to the area. I pulled up. It was parked on the east side of the street, which is the right side of the road because it was facing northbound. I positioned my cruiser right by the driver's side door so that his first instinct was going to be try to open that door. I put my bumper almost on it so that he would not be able to escape and he'd have to climb over the seats. My goal was to be on the other side of the car before he got out. So I flew up on the car, put it in park, jump out, ran around the side. He tried to get out that door, ends up climbing over the center console. I was just a few feet behind him. He was like a 13, 14, 15-year-old kid. I can't remember how old he was at the time. Skinny. He was faster than I am with all my gear on. That was a known factor. So I see him run into a yard. I look into the yard, and I can see that yard is fenced in all the way around. We're right on the edge, and I can see that this other yard doesn't have a fence going all the way around. So I make the decision, he's running into a fenced-in yard. I'm going to run around the outside. Hopefully I can get to the alley before he does, catch him when he's jumping over. Well, there were more officers in the alley coming this way. So as they jumped the alley, he saw their flashlights. He freaked out, jumped over the fence in this direction. Here I am. So he jumps over the fence. I think I just have my flashlight on him. I'm like, get on the ground now. He freaking sprawls out on the ground. I remember it was kind of like a wet evening. There was like a lot of dew on the ground. He goes sliding across the ground and says, don't tase me. I just pissed my pants. That might have been the last time that I arrested Jesse before he became an adult. But there's nothing I wanted more in this world than to just come down on him. He probably weighed 120 pounds soaking wet. I was at the time 220, 230 pounds, plus all of my gear. I am not a light person. I could have squished him. There's nothing in this world I wanted more than to pop him like a zit. But I didn't. I was required to keep my bearing, not use any force, not let my anger get the better of me. And I didn't. I might have put my knee on like their, like above their hips in the smaller back. That's often where I put my knee on people when I'm going to put them in handcuffs. And he definitely knew I was there, but I didn't hurt him. I didn't injure him. That's what's expected of me. At the same time, if I had jumped on him and maybe dropped an elbow on him and injured him, how would we look at that? How would we look at that if that happened in broad daylight on Main Street? Would people be saying, look, that police officer is a human being. He's very frustrated. He knows this guy. He's arrested him many, many times, taken him to jail and seen the kid back at home before the officer even made it back on his precinct. I don't think people would be reacting that way. But frankly, we had a similar one where there was a man who had just fired a weapon into a house, ran from police officers, still had a gun on him while one officer was wrestling with him. Another officer runs up, tries to stomp on him to stamp him back down to the ground. That was captured on cell phone video, and that officer was actually fired. He was fired for his actions while the guy who was on the ground wrestling with another officer still had a gun on him and had just fired into a house full of people with children inside. So we know how these things work. So I guess the whole point of my story and my thoughts today, when I saw Will Smith walking up on stage and slapping Chris Rock, to all the people who are justifying that or saying that they understand the reason he did it, I want you to remember this the next time that you see a police officer doing something that you don't like. And maybe you should just understand for a moment that these officers are also human. I think those are going to be my thoughts for today. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you soon.